Welcome to this week's Quick Charge. It's actually quite astounding the lengths with which the devil will go to keep people away from the love of God. The parable of the sower is a story about seeds and soils, but the underlying story is a story of the strong competition to keep the seed separate from the soil. The enemy doesn't want people to even know there is such a thing as the love of God. He hopes people will flounder around hopelessly without ever accessing God's amazing love. Add to that the hard things that we experience that can make us hardened over time, the difficulties, the tragedies, the heartaches. It only takes one crushing, tragic, devastating event to literally block out the love of God. The competition is that strong. In the end, many people will look back with full understanding and realize that they faced divine moments that would have changed their life and their eternity. But something else was competing so strongly against them with such intensity and pressure that they missed God's love altogether. This kind of competition is not reserved exclusively for those who've never tasted his love. Everyone is subject to this competition. Every love relationship with Jesus is under the stress and the strain of this kind of competition. Maintaining a fervent love relationship with Jesus, not simply attending church or singing songs or sitting through a sermon or having a daily Bible reading. Maintaining a relationship of passion is a constant challenge. How many people do you know that are associated with the Christian community that consistently maintain and express a fervent love for Jesus? In Jesus' parable of the lost son, that wayward son had a reality check. In Luke 15:17, the Bible says he came to himself. Yet when he came to himself, he then went to his father. That reality check led to an encounter which wasn't at all what he expected, envisioned, or even planned. He had played this out in his mind over and over, rehearsed how it would go, knowing exactly what he was going to say and do. He had already anticipated everything his father would do. But he discovered in that divine moment that as he came to his father, it was nothing like what he thought. He couldn't even finish his prepared statement, his planned speech. After all, he had mistakes to own up to, he had sins to admit to, but he hadn't planned on falling into the compassionate arms and embrace of his Father's love. Compassion is when the Father momentarily, extraordinarily, and surprisingly suspends what we are expecting to give us what we really need in that moment. This wasn't supposed to happen, but it did. The son's human condition was remedied and restored and remade in the arms of his father. How tragic if we go to the Bible but never get to the Father. How sad to attend church, which is the Father's own house, week after week, but rarely, if ever, go to the Father. What made that house special for that son was that the Father was at that house. What am I really missing by hanging on to things that supplant the Father's love? How much am I forfeiting, really, by succumbing to all of that competition? These are things worth pondering. Join me next week for another quick charge. God bless.